We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, and welcome to Talk Up Your Biz. I'm Jean-Noel Bassior, and I'm with my co-host,
Susan Levin.
And we have got a great show planned for you today. In the second segment, we're going to have Jothy Rosenburg as a guest. And Jothy lost both his leg and his lung to cancer when he was in his teens. And he has an amazing story of survival and how he triumphed over this and didn't let it hold him back from what he wanted to do. And he used sports. He used sports to do this. We know his story
well.
He's
an extreme athlete.
Yes. And he's with Speaker Services, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. And we have Susan Levin with us. She is going to be our guest in the third segment because we never get to interview Susan. So, she's going to tell us all about how you as a speaker or an expert can go out there and promote your business or your book or your film or whatever your product, whatever you want to do. So what's in the news this week? What are we going to talk about? Or what's our latest expert tip, I should say?
Well, last week we talked about getting on local TV. And I thought this week we might talk about how to get on TV, on national TV. And Susan Harrow, who's a PR lady in Northern California, I happened to be on her email list, and she wrote a fantastic article, so I didn't have to redo it or make it up. And we were talking about it before we started the show, how in-depth it is. And it's not an easy, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to get on Oprah's or Dr. Phil's, just like that. And it correlates with what we're doing also in the media coaching that we're doing with our clients who want to get on TV and who want to get on radio. They also have to go through all these steps. And so many people have these lofty ideas that, they're just going to jump in. They do the same thing with speaking. They say, well, I can speak about this. I'm an expert. And they just jump in and they're shooting from the hip. So she gives us a really nice blueprint here. And she says, many people see getting on TV as holy grail to getting publicity. And PR is the best way, one of the best and overlooked ways to get noticed. And Oprah was like the leader in making careers overnight. Other shows don't necessarily have some instant influence that Oprah had, but a 4-minute segment on a major morning show really does make the difference.
I mean, people will sell out their books, the whole printing on Oprah. I talked to several people.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I've talked to people who've been on Oprah. I remember one woman, an author. These are not people who were necessarily well known before, but one woman told me that her first printing of 10,000 books sold out the same day that she was on Oprah. I mean, it's just amazing. That was amazingly powerful.
Yeah, well, Oprah is the woman. She is the person. So the first thing that she suggests is that you write a segment, not a pitch. You want to talk about that, what the difference is, Jean-Noel?
Well, I think in a way you have to do both, but I think she's, if I understand this correctly, she is actually orchestrating the segment, and it's let's say a 4-minute segment for the producer. Now, she's not going in and trying to, do this in a way that would threaten the producer, but her pitch is going to be catered to exactly the subject matter that they know this show wants to cover.
Right.
And before they even get to that point, I think, as she says, when you get further along here, she says it's a couple of points that she's got, like they're about way down on the list, and she goes like, well, this should be 1 and 2, because the first thing is to really research the hosts and the show, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because your topic may not be appropriate for their show, but I know that on a lot of shows, if you go onto their website, that you can see a list of experts that they are looking for, or what the focus is, and you can reach out to the producer. But what are the things that you need to reach out to them with?
Well, the first thing is with just getting back to the research for a moment.
Okay,
I'm impressed with how she sets this up, because it's very much like a reporter would do it. So if you want to be on a talk show. In fact, our guest last week, Gail Murphy, came in here and said to me, I've Googled you and you've probably Googled me. And that sounds kind of weird, I know. But, and I thought, well, what did she find out about me? And she knew about my book. And so I do this as a reporter. If an editor is going to make an assignment, or if I want to get into a magazine and I know who the assignment editor is, I will Google her and I will see, what has she written? What does she like to write about? And so beyond even what I think is on the website, I would be Googling the producer of the show.
Yeah,
Is she like a hockey fanatic, in her spare time?
What's a hockey?
Hockey?
Oh, hockey. I thought you said hockey.
Oh, my New York thing coming out.
I didn't
You're in New York, you should know.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
What are her hobbies?
Yeah.
I mean, really, if you really want to get on a national show, to me, it's worth doing this kind of research.
So you need to know the show.
Yeah.
One show that could be good for women could be Rachel Ray or possibly Hoda and Kathy Lee. And I never watch them during the day. And The View. But Hoda and Kathy Lee, sometimes when I can't sleep at night, I see them at 2 o'clock in the morning. And they have little segments on there for women. And Susan mentions that in one of the posts. And you got to develop your 5 points and your 5 questions. And that's what, whether you're going to be on TV or you're going to be on the radio, you got to have that.
Yeah.
Would you call the 5 points a story angle, or would that be the points that you're going to cover?
Well, she says an interesting thing here. I think she says it actually here. So the 5 points and the 5 questions that you want to focus on are related. And she makes a really good suggestion here. She says, think of the 5 points that you want to make on the show. Now that, remember, she says, now you've researched the background of the person interviewing you, their personality and pet peeves, their style and their pacing.
Yeah.
All of those are important if you make a phone call, and end up talking with them. You want to know that stuff. But now getting back to these 5 points. So once you create 5 points that you want to make on the show, then she says you reverse engineer them. And that's how you create the questions.
Right.
And this is
exactly.
really good, because a lot of the questions that we get for this show and which you have to sift through, and for my show, The Book Beat, are like, well, what made you really, really want to write this book? Or what do your friends say about how come they like it so much?
Yeah.
I mean, so if you reverse engineer, that is, create a question from the point that you want to make, that's an excellent way to get a question, isn't it?
That's exactly what I told the woman today who's going to do a teleclass for me. She said, I don't have my VA anymore, my assistant of 10 years, and I could pull the points. But how about the questions? That's more work. I said, just take your points and turn them into questions.
Exactly, yeah.
It's so obvious.
Yeah.
I do that sometimes when people don't give me what I need.
Right. And then the host isn't going to follow the questions necessarily, because, the best interview is a conversation that is happening in the moment. And what I do with questions is I use them as jumping off places. Now, if somebody gives you really great questions, of course, some guests will give you great questions. You use those. But if you do submit questions, just be prepared when you're doing the interview to stay in the moment.
Agreed. Today I had another experience, because you guys know that I produce this show, Talk Up Your Biz, and The Book Beat. So I'm getting, 5 different entries from different people, including the guest experts. And we booked somebody, and I remember it was for guest expert about how to take your book onto to film. And he's a publicist, and that's his expertise. And I've been going back and forth with him because I was waiting for the information. And when he sent me a PDF, he sent me a Word doc separately, he sent me a PDF and something in the email, nothing with the title in it. And there was only one question that reflects it. And I said, and it was a PDF. And I always say I want it in a Word doc. People don't follow the directions. Yeah. You want to get booked on this show or any show, you've got to follow the directions.
Yeah, listen to the producer.
I don't want to copy a PDF and pull out the points.
Yeah.
I want somebody to do it for me. Like you always say, we want to make it easy for us. Don't make it harder. and we've laid down some boundaries now because I was up all hours of the night trying to, make up for these things.
Yeah, you want to make it easy for the producer. So that's why they're taking this kind of, Susan Harrow is taking this segment approach. She's kind of planning out the segment for the producer and giving them these 5 key points and questions.
And then giving extra points, too, as she says, just in case there's room for it. And then another point that she brings up is she says, integrate stories into the conversation that bring you business, but you can't be salesy about it. And she does say that also.
She says, give success stories of your clients if you're pushing
Exactly.
a product or service.
Yeah.
And because that's how you avoid talking about yourself and, sounding like an infomercial. Talk about your client's success. And of course, they put it together that
Right.
you did it.
Yeah, and that's what we teach people also, when they get when they go out to speak, we say use a story. You've heard, if you've listened to the show before, we talk a lot about stories because stories support your points and it paints a picture. But you can't say I'm the best thing since sliced bread and everybody has bought my book or my service and they're so happy with me.
Yeah.
No, but you tell a story and they can relate to it.
Yeah, and she has a couple of other interesting things here that I think are really important. What we were talking about.
Yes, please.
What you're trying to do as much for the producer as possible. I mean, don't you wish people would come in with this?
Yeah.
Producing a show, folks, is really hard. Susan works really hard to produce both these shows. I mean, it's endless phone calls. It's people who don't quite give you what you want or they don't respond on time and you got to get back to them. And if they don't make a show, then it changes everything else. And
Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's so here, one of the things that producers want and talk show hosts want is to drive people to their website. So if you have an offer, and an example of this is if you listen to Coast to Coast AM, which is the most popular talk show on radio. It's on in Los Angeles. It's on all over the country. Los Angeles, it's KFI at 10 at night, and it's on different affiliates around the country. Now, they go a little bit too far. They don't mention the last name of the guest a lot of times on the show. That's done deliberately to drive traffic to their website, which can be kind of annoying. I think that goes a little bit too far.
To the radio's website.
Yeah, to the Coast to Coast website.
Right.
Yeah, not the station, the actual program.
It.
But if she's suggesting here that if you have a special offer, like you often talk about, so you're going to give away your book or an excerpt or something, but they don't go to your website. You give the website of the program, then the program gets those hits, and then from the program's website they go to your website.
And they also get email followers that way too. It's good for lead generation for the program. I mean, we've had the same conversation with our business manager here, Richard, about how he wants people to go to LA Talk Live, and not to, as much to YouTube or to Ustream or even to speaker services, because they want to see who's watching the show.
Right.
And in spite of that, we're still getting great stats. So somebody must be doing something right. We're very pleased, thank you. And, I would like to hear from some of our listeners, what you think about our conversation. Have you gotten on TV, local? Have you gotten on national TV? You could email us at Susan@speakerservices.com. And we will write you back. We will even mention you on the show next week. We want to know that you're listening. We want to know your experiences. And we might even put it on our blog site. Or we might put it up on LA Talk Live on Facebook if I know how to add something. I haven't figured that out yet. Oh, I know why, because I'm not a friend. I'm over my friends. But we'll work something out.
How about giving us a story of how you went out and talked about your business? Would that work? We might mention some interesting ones if people contact us.
Right. You're telling people to do that. You're not asking me. Yeah. That's what we want to know. That's what this show is about.
Yeah.
It's about talking up your business and bringing more profits into it.
If you've thought of a really creative way to do that, let us know about it, and we may talk about you on the show.
We talk about our clients.
Yeah. We may even have you on the show.
That's right. Yeah. We're always looking for people. What about sound bites? How important are they?
Yeah, she says practice 20-second sound bites. Practice with a friend. This has to become second nature to you, just where you really get the point across. I mean, how would you describe a sound bite?
That's what I was going to ask you. You're the expertise in sound bites.
Well, it's that thing that sticks in your mind. It's that point that you want to drive home.
Grow your business through speaking?
Yeah, I mean, that's
a sound bite?
Well, that could be one. I mean, soundbite can be many different things. Actually, it doesn't have to be your brand necessarily, but it could be.
I support professional people in growing their business and income through speaking. Is that a soundbite?
Yeah, that's a great soundbite.
Okay. What's yours?
Don't put me on the spot because I'm going through an identity crisis. But I help people, focus their ideas into books and speak about them for the media.
Well, that's good. And don't say that it's a crisis. You're just rebranding. That's what everybody says when they're going through changes.
Absolutely.
None of us are in crisis. I heard something yesterday I was sharing with Donna, our friend who's in the studio with us, on Oprah's show on Super Sunday or Super Soul Sunday. And she had Tony Robbins on. And one thing that stuck with me was he said, when you think about fear, change fear to courage. Mm-hmm. And I just love that. Mm-hmm. It just makes it so positive because I have a lot of fear about different things and resistance, as we know, as most people do. I don't know if anybody's perfect, but I think that was a good thing. And that's staying in my mind. Mm-hmm. It's going to stick with me.
Yeah.
So we should probably be wrapping this up soon. And there's a bunch more things that she says, like, she says practice on video, which is a good idea, and you can do that really easily.
Which is so easy to do now because we've all got webcams,
Right.
So
or on your phone or on your iPad.
Right.
And see how you look and try to be as relaxed and smile and get settled. But a lot of people, sometimes they forget to smile, and you have to be like those models, or the commercials where they're constantly smiling, like this all the time. So that would be fun. And I think that about takes us to the end of what we're talking about, how to get on national TV. So let us know if you've had success or you're reaching out, or even if you have questions, Susan@speakerservices.com. And I just remembered too, we have a class coming up this Friday, a 4-part teleclass series called Take Your Message to the Media, which is going to focus on that, all on my website at speakerservices.com. So check us out. As we go into break, you've been listening to LA Talk Live, where we're more than just talk, and this is Talk Up Your Biz. And when we come back, we're going to be speaking with Jothy Rosenburg. He'll be calling us from Massachusetts, I think Boston area. And he's an author, an extreme athlete, an entrepreneur, and a 2-time cancer survivor who empowers others to say, I can, in the face of major challenges. And that's also the name of his book and the name of one of his talks. So we'll be back with you in a few moments. I'm watching it grow.
Hello?
Taking a stand and making a difference, ready to change the world that I see. 'Cause I have
Bassior, inviting you to join me for my new show, The Book Beat, Monday evenings at 6:30 p.m. I'll be talking to authors about their latest book so you can find a fantastic read. But more than that, I'll be talking to experts about how you can write your own book and get it published. So tune in on Mondays at 6:30 p.m. exclusively on latalklive.com. And remember, you can catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Elena, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Today is my day.
Welcome back. You're with Talk Up Your Biz with Susan Levin and my co-host
Jean-Noel Bassior.
And we have the pleasure of having Jothy Rosenburg on the line. Hi, Jothy.
Hi, Susan.
We can't
It's
hear
great
you
to be
very.
here.
Oh, good. Let's turn up the volume a little bit here so we can hear you. I'm glad you're here with us.
Can you hear?
Yes, very good.
Much better.
And I'll give you a little introduction here. When Jothy was 16, when he lost his right leg to deadly bone cancer, and 19 when the cancer spread to his lungs, things got even worse when his doctor warned, when this cancer metastasizes, no one has survived. That's when young Jothy left home to become a ski bum until he dropped dead. Well, he's here with us now, and how many years later is it, Jothy?
Well, it's exactly 40.
40
Wow.
years. You beat all the odds, and yeah, you're pretty amazing, and we're so happy that we have you on the calling in. Are you in Boston or somewhere around there?
Yes.
That's what I thought. And people tell me, and I've told you this before in the past, that they see you on speaker services and then they're surprised when they see you biking around Boston. Is that your main?
I bike a lot around Boston, yeah.
Yeah. And so, Jean-Noel, you have something?
Jothy, question: when the Boston Marathon bombing happened, were you able to help any of the people that lost limbs in that accident and that attack at all, or did you?
Well, I've set up a foundation. I had been working on this foundation anyway to help people with disabilities get into sports. When the bombing happened and there were 18 new amputees, unfortunately, created by that incident, I did decide to initially focus on helping them. And so I've reached out to all of them. Most of them are still, even though it's been 2.5 months, 3 months since the incident, most of them, not surprisingly, are still healing, still trying to just figure out how to walk. So most of them are saying, we appreciate what you're doing. We're going to be back in touch with you, but we're not ready for sports quite yet. And
yeah,
I completely understand that.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, whenever something like that happens, how did you, there must be this period of absolute despair that you have to go through initially, right?
And that lasts longer than you might think. I was a kid, and I think kids are actually more resilient than when we get older. And although we didn't have much in the way of resources for people with or knowledge of what people could do after they've lost a limb. For example, most people who ski, who are listening to this, have probably seen people with outriggers skiing. But when I lost my leg, those outriggers had not been invented yet. So you were a lot more on your own to figure it all out back then, even though it's not that long ago. And so I think that there is a long period. where you go through the cycles of shock and sadness and kind of denial, and then acceptance, and then you have a chance after all that to start really thinking about, well, now that I've figured out how to get out of bed, how to walk, and how to sit at the table and how to go to the bathroom, now I might be ready to think about, well, what sports can I do to start feeling better about myself. And that's sort of been one of the things that I figured out and wrote about in my book, which is the casualty in all this, in addition to the disability, is the loss of self-esteem. I think everybody gets that, but it's how do you get it back? How do you figure out what's it going to take to rebuild my self-esteem?
How do you get it
and
back?
You know, there's a great quote. I have to mention Gloria Steinem and give her credit. She said, "It's not that self-esteem is everything; it's just that there's nothing without it." And she's a brilliant woman for saying that, and for many other reasons. I think that the point of sports for someone with a disability is that we are willing to work harder at something that we want to get good at than most people are willing to. And when you work hard at anything, you get good at it. And when you get good at it, you feel better and better about yourself, and your self-esteem starts to climb. And it's like this sort of magic elixir, and you just feel like you've overcome. It's not a permanent overcome, but you've overcome something that was holding you back. You have to keep at it because your disability doesn't go. I mean, it's been 40 years, and when I'm going around the house on crutches, because you don't wear your prosthesis all the way until bedtime. So carrying something heavy and clumsy is quite hard with on crutches. And so you're reminded that you have this disability. But then when I get on the bike or in the pool, it recharges the batteries. And that's the key thing.
I love the name of your book and the name of your talk, Who Says I Can't? And it's, normally you would say, it's a negative, but you turned it around and made it a positive. What kind of groups have you been speaking to about your book and the topic, the topic itself? Because we know that you're reaching people through speaking.
I speak a lot. So everything from elementary school kids, which is kind of a favorite of mine. Fifth graders is the most common elementary school age because they're past the age of being kind of self-centered and silly, and they're ready to think about. They can actually conceptualize something, and they can think about, well, what would this be like if it happened to me or if it happened to a friend? It doesn't get maudlin. It doesn't get depressing for them. I keep it kind of funny and upbeat. I actually take the lower part of my leg off and I hand it around to the class, and that's right after I told them that it costs more than their parents' car, which is true. My leg cost about $60,000.
Wow.
But I talk to high schools. I also talk to special events, health fairs, corporate opportunities. So it's a wide range of things. I've spoken at ESPN headquarters, at Netflix headquarters.
You did. That's interesting. Yeah.
Bigger, even bigger companies than those. So.
And you've been on the Today Show too, right?
I'm sorry?
You've been on the Today Show and on Fox?
I've been on the Today Show twice. Yes. Once Fox found out that I was on the Today Show,
They wanted you.
competition kicked in. They had to have me on.
Were you talking about the book or your story? What was the story angle? Because I don't know if you heard the first part of our banter today. We were talking about how to get on national TV.
Well, the very first time on the Today Show, it was actually because I'd written a letter to the editor to Newsweek when Jonathan Alter had done the cover story article about his experience with cancer. But his experience with cancer was about 6 months old. And I wrote a letter saying, well, I've had 35 years of experience. And he liked the letter so much that he convinced the Today Show to have me on the show. More than that, he decided to ride the Pan Massachusetts Challenge bike ride with me, which is this 192-mile bike ride.
Oh my God!
It's the largest and oldest athletic fundraiser in the country. In one weekend, 5,000 bike riders raised $38 million.
Wow!
What was funny was that Jonathan trained, and he started the ride with us, but he couldn't keep up with the one-legger, and so he agreed to fall back, and I took off because the pace was just too slow for me.
Wow.
The second time that I was on the Today Show, it was because I created a TV show called Who Says I Can't? I'm Consistent. And the TV show was allowing me to tell the story of other people.
Yes, I saw some of the clips. Yeah.
So it's telling the story of other people who've gotten disabled and who've used sports and who've done amazing things.
What was the most inspiring? What was the most inspiring story for you, Jothy, of the people that you had on that show?
Well, Hugh Herr is a professor at MIT in inventing amazing bionics for amputees. At 17, he was already a fairly accomplished rock climber, and he and his buddy went ice climbing on Mount Washington in January when he was, as I said, 17. They got caught in a whiteout. They went down the wrong side, which is wilderness, and they tried to survive in a snow cave for 4 days. They both lost both legs from frostbite and almost didn't make it. And when I interviewed him for a piece that he asked me not to broadcast, he said on camera that he remembered thinking before this happened that he was so into sports that if something happened to him that he couldn't keep doing his sport, he would be suicidal. And then when it did happen to him, he was very mechanical. He figured out that he was going to try to make climbing legs for both legs. And then he went out and tried it, and it worked. And he didn't think he would be as good as he was before, but at least he still loved the sport, and so he felt really, really good. Quickly, within a year, he got to be one of the top rock climbers in the world.
Wow.
Not top considering he had 2 prosthetic legs, but just top in the world.
So he was even better? He was even better than before the accident?
Well, in one respect, yes, because he can make himself as short as 5'5" and as tall as 8 feet, depending on what he wants to climb.
Wow.
And he says, thank goodness he lost both legs so he can do that.
Wow. Jothy, do you still have the TV shows?
Yeah, well, I have had trouble selling it to major executives from networks. They think it's too positive and too earnest, and that Americans want you to embarrass and humiliate people for that to be a reality show. I did launch it on YouTube, and it's doing quite well there. We have close to 80,000 viewers now. And I would love to be able to make, I have 3 episodes up there, and I would love to make more. It's on YouTube under WSIC TV for Who Says I Can't TV. And the more people that watch it, the better chances that we can generate enough ad revenue that we can go make more episodes.
Yeah, definitely take a look, because I've looked at all of them, and I was hoping that we'd have a clip today, but it just didn't work out with the system here. But you can go right onto YouTube. And how can people get a hold of you? I'm
easy to get a hold of. You can find me through my website, which is whosaysican't.org. And there you can, find the links to the TV show and the foundation and the book. And a lot of people buy the shirts that say "Who Says I Can't," because when they're running or they're working out in the gym, it's a great thing for everybody.
Yeah, I think it is fantastic. I've been going through some health challenges myself, so I'm going to remember this. And Jean-Noel was just holding up your beautiful one sheet.
Jothy, we only have a couple of seconds here, but if someone is facing a challenge or a crisis right now, what's your best advice to them, how to get through it?
I think that what helped me and helps most people I talk to is don't try to set some huge goal. Just set get a set of small little victories. Yeah. For me it was, well, can I walk on crutches with one leg? And then once that was, I felt good about that. Well, can I hike a mile on crutches? And then, once you've got 3 or 4 of these behind you, then you can start really setting bigger goals. So a series of little victories. Don't like overwhelm yourself with too big a goal at one time.
A series of little victories. That's a great phrase to remember.
Very inspiring.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And
and I just want to say, you can, if you'd like to see Jothy's speaker listing, go to speakerservices.com and search by name, and you'll find all the different things that he talks about. War Stories of an Incorrigible Entrepreneur is one of his talks. He talks about his book, Who Says I Can't? And if you need a great speaker, call him. And if you have some funding or some ideas to allow him to continue to do his YouTube shows, we'd love to help him to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, you guys.
We appreciate
Great
you.
to talk to you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
So don't go anywhere, because coming up we have in studio a special guest, Susan Levin. Because, we never get enough time on the show to talk about you as a speaker and what Susan does with Speaker Services. And we had a guest cancellation, so we thought, well, let's have Susan on. And so if you have a product, a book, something you want to promote, if you want to get out there and speak, Susan's going to give you some great tips about how to do that. And it's coming up here on Talk Up Your Biz on LA Talk Live, where we're more than just talk.
Hey, shout us out. What's the count? I'm your host, Ferran Dozier. I'm inviting you to join me on WDC Radio every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time as we discuss community topics around health, sports, and entertainment. So don't forget to shout us out. What's the count? On WDC Radio, only on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live. We're more than just talk. What's the count?
Hi, this is Jean-Noel Bassior, inviting you to join me for my new show, The Book Beat, Monday evenings at 6:30 p.m. I'll be talking to authors about their latest book so you can find a fantastic read. But more than that, I'll be talking to experts about how you can write your own book and get it published. So tune in on Mondays at 6:30 p.m. exclusively on latalklive.com. And remember, you can catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. Welcome back to Talk Up Your Biz. I'm Jean-Noel Bassior, and my co-host and our special guest this segment is Susan Levin, and she heads up speaker services, and I'm going to let her tell you more about it, but I'm going to ask a few questions to get...
Well, Jean-Noel's been there from the beginning, actually.
Yeah, we actually started it together.
Right, we brainstormed it together. Do you want me to start speaking, or did you have a question?
No, start speaking.
Okay. I've been an entrepreneur since 1970, and I always look for what's missing or what would interest me, keep my interest, and how can I help other people. So I've had several businesses, and all of them have lasted 7 years.
What about the baskets? Weren't you at one time?
Yeah,
didn't you
basket weaving, clothing business, traveling up and down the coast, living my hippie lifestyle and selling clothing that I made. A flower business. You probably don't even know all of them.
I didn't know about the flower business. What did you do?
We went, Susie Harris and I would go downtown and buy flowers and sell them on Washington Boulevard when people came to the beach.
Really?
Yeah. It didn't last that long. But I was one of the first people to sell clothes or to sell at Venice Beach. I came out to LA in 1976. I was newly divorced. I had owned 2 health food stores with my husband. I have a degree in education. I had taught for 2 years in the New York City school system in downtown Brooklyn and absolutely disliked it. It was very difficult, and that was in the middle 60s. And I knew I never could work for anybody else after that. And after a stint of traveling in Europe with my former husband, we opened 2 health food stores, as I said, in Connecticut. We split up. I came to the West Coast. And I've been here ever since. So figure it out. It's been a long time, 1976. Longer here than I was on the East Coast. Mm-hmm. And the last business that I owned, and interestingly enough, I'll say what it is in a moment, was called Conscious Connection Magazine, an event production company. And it was a magazine where we desktop published it because we didn't have the internet then. And we did that for 7 years, and you were writing for it then, too. We started then. And it had a very big distribution. It was advertiser supported. And I then decided I was tired of that, and I wanted to sell it. Well, the first guest that's on the book beat bought it from me, Dottie Albertine. Right. She's a fantastic graphic designer and book designer, and she didn't keep it that long, but she gave me the biggest gift. Because in 1992, I started Speaker Services, or then it was called Speakers for Free. And what I did was to take, and this is what we want to share with you, and we're always trying to get across, and that's what Speaker Services is about. It was like, how can I serve people? How can I use my expertise and make it a win-win for everybody who's involved with it? So I looked at my expertise, and I suggest you write down what you're strong at. And I said, you know what? I know how to desktop publish because we still didn't have the internet then. And I like marketing. I like people. I'm going to start something called Speakers for Free. And we started with a local magazine in LA. It's what we call the throwaway.
And I actually pulled that name from KNX Radio, I can confess, years later, because I heard they were trying to do some kind of agency. And I heard that phrase, speakers for free. And I remember I tossed that to you, and we thought that would be a great name. Right?
And we grew into speakers for free and fee, and then entertainment directory. And in 1994, the web came, and I was on it. You know, I was so ready not to take these boards to the printer, which cost so much money. Although, you know, looking back, we had to have that foundation to get to where we are now.
But you were one of the first people to have a website.
One of the first 1,500.
Yeah.
And we started the website in 94, and by 98, we had enough meeting planners and program chairs who were coming onto the web to find our speakers. So the vision is, and it has always been, is to support professional people, entrepreneurs, and experts in growing their business and income through speaking. I have never told anybody to be a professional speaker.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. What's the difference? Like, what?
The difference is, as a professional speaker, aside from, you know, doing all the training that you need to step out to do it, is that you do it pretty much full time. But it's the business has changed so much. Since 9/11, a lot of people don't want to fly; they want to stay close to home. And there's not as much speaking business, so people had to start to diversify, and they realized that they had to be multi-dimensional, so to speak. And we were doing that all along, you know, sharing with people. Look, you have a business, you have a service. You want to get more people to follow you, to be on your email list. You want to stay out in front of these people. You want to get business from it. How about speaking? Have you ever considered it? And a lot of people never even thought about it.
So what are the first steps that somebody can take? Because I know one of the things that you do that's different is you're willing to work with people who don't have any experience and to really start them off. Right. And so.
Right. So if they come to me and they say, I don't know what I want to speak about, but I think I'm an expert, or I don't even know what I'm an expert in, then we have to delve into working with them to find out what their expertise is and to hold their hand through the process and to begin to develop, help them to develop a talk. Or and sometimes you and I coach together. Sometimes you do it separately. Sometimes our other team member who was on the show last week, Jack Barnard, works with some of our clients, and he helps them to develop their talks and gets deep into it so that they have something to talk about, and you know they can go out and do it. At one time, we were doing a lot of different classes. Speakers boot camp and video demo showcases, and we were getting a speaker summit, speaker symposium, and getting a lot of people to come to them. That changed too when the economy went south about 6 or 7 years ago, and then people got scared. They didn't want to spend money. They didn't want to come out, and then there emerged all these other people who were the experts who came up, after us, who were charging like
with the $10,000 programs.
I was going to say $12,000 programs, and teaching people how to make money speaking from the stage. And that's never been our focus.
Right.
You know, we're very intimate in our coaching. We hold people's hands, and we don't charge a fortune. We just, we wanted a business that would be a win-win. I said that before, for everybody. So it's a win-win for us when we get the clients. If they get listed in speaker services when they're ready, they pay a fee, but they get an awful lot from us. The meeting planners get to win because they get a great speaker at speakerservices.com. And the people who are listed with us, whether they're an author, an entrepreneur, or they call themselves a speaker, that's fine. Get speaking engagements, but they get more than that.
Well, it's kind of a do-it-yourself kind of thing, but it's also, if you're going to do it yourself, you don't have, it's like you need help. I always say it helps to get help. So, for example, I know that when I started writing and I learned how to break into magazines, into top magazines, my first thought was, why don't I teach this? Why don't I go out and speak about this? And so if you are an expert in anything, that's kind of the attitude that we've always had, is why not go out and show people how you learned how to do it or what your process was, because there's always people that are out there doing it, so why don't you be one of those people, right? So then you have to learn the basics, and then you don't have to go to the $10,000 program. That's where we start people off. Like a lot of times they don't really know how to put a presentation together. Right.
And the other thing that they need is video. Like if you are going to get paid for speaking, because a lot of our people will speak free, I didn't say that, locally, to grow their business through speaking, to get out in front of those people. It's much easier to speak to a group of 100 people or 50 people than, one-on-one. And then with social media, that's another thing, that came on that's fabulous. And that I teach people how to do that too. And we do some social media for them. But video is important to have.
It's everything now.
Right. And the people who come on the show have an advantage too. If they're one of our speakers, they definitely get to be on the show because they get a great interview. I hope you've been listening. Jean-Noel is a fantastic interviewer. And you can pull your segment out of here and have that on your website or break it into smaller segments. But what the meeting planners are also looking for, there's never enough video, you can have a lot, is to see you in front of an audience. They want to see how charismatic you are, how you tell stories, how you involve the audience before they're going to even pay you anything. Gone are the days that they're going to read text or get a referral from somebody. They want to see you. The same way people Google you. They want to see.
What about having products?
Products are helpful. Audio products are probably the easiest with MP3s. We have a online store where we have tons of products that came out of the Speakers Community Membership Club, which I still have, and it's an incredible cornucopia of interviews that I've done over the years with experts.
Yeah, this is an amazing library. But you're really good at showing people how to create a product.
Right.
That's,
So I say start with an MP3, do an audio recording and then transcribe it. And then you have two products, that you can bundle it. So that helps also. And it's also important to know how to market yourself as a speaker. That's a class that I teach every couple months. I used to teach it in person. Now we have people all over the country, so I do it as a teleclass, a 2-part teleclass series. Next one's in August 15th. Very reasonable. And it is so important to come on that class and learn the information that most people aren't even aware of. They don't take a rating form out with them. They don't take an introduction. They don't know how to put their one sheets together. And this is the first time I'll probably be saying this. Speaker Services is rebranding. We're expanding because of this broadcasting opportunity that we have had since March for both of the shows. We want to get people, we're going to be reaching out more for getting media for our people. So we're going to be including that in Market Yourself as a Speaker, which Jean-Noel, where she'll be joining me in that, plus teaching these simple teleclasses. So get on if you have any expertise, just jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah, and you have to learn the basics. So what do people need basically? Let's say somebody, I always like the example of somebody who maybe has a specialty store of some kind, and they're an expert in quilting, or they've got a specialty bookstore like It's Only Mysteries, or they've got some kind of expertise. They're a small business person. And that's, or they're a therapist or a coach,
Well, let's take a therapist then,
That's always a good example.
That's a good example.
Yeah.
So the therapist wants to get more business.
Right.
So let's say we have a therapist who talks about grief and grieving.
Yes.
And she wants to reach a specific group. You need to know who your audience is. So by being listed with Speaker Services, we can help them write their copy and have meeting planners call them directly, or on the class I teach people how to be proactive, how they can find gigs online.
How do they find the speaking gigs? That's the biggest question that we get.
For local, I think the easiest thing to do is to a lot of the big cities have business journals. And I would say get to the business journals. They have a book of lists. And in the book of lists, they break down the top owned companies by women or nonprofits or management
Now,
groups.
where is this book of lists? Is this
It
online?
comes through you have to order through the LA Business Journal.
I see. So the
and
business,
each
I see.
city has one. San Diego has one. Chicago has one. They're all over the country. And they put it out once a year. And that would be a beginning place where you could see how many employees they have. And they don't tell you the person who you want to, who's the person to call. They all go by so many different names. Even in the colleges, there's 17 different names.
It's hard to sort
find
those out. Yeah.
Right. But, so it's a learning process. It's an art. And so you call the marketing person. That's the name that's there, and that's where you start, and you use your tip.
Well, that's one of the things that we both believe in is being proactive. So that means that at some point you have to gather your courage, make some phone calls, and you also have to really focus, like we talk about so much on this show, so that you can either send an introductory email or a follow-up email. But whether you send the email first and then call, or you call and then follow up with the email, it's all about getting that short paragraph that has the who, what, where, why, when, who you are, what you do, having a one sheet, having these different tools.
Yeah, you definitely need a one sheet, because the
Right.
one sheet says it all. It's your sales sheet.
Right, because if you're going to there's so many great opportunities there, like, say, being listed on speaker services and some of the other things that are similar that are around, but then you're not in an agency. So you've got to be proactive, because some people will find you, but it helps, doesn't it, to go out there and...
Yeah, and I'm smiling because this morning I get a call at 7:30 in the morning. I don't answer the phone. I listen to the message afterwards. It's a woman who's local, and she says, I have a copy of a print directory called Speakers for Free and Fee from 1994,
Oh, wow.
and I'm wondering where I could get another one. And I'm not, and I'm like, okay. She said, you don't need to call me back if you're not doing it anymore, and I don't want to get it online. So I call her anyhow. I said, this is a courtesy call. And she said to me, you are amazing. She said, I found you. And you have the same phone number, the same email address. People move so much, it's hard to find them. And you're actually answering the phone and calling me back.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest keys to my success.
It is.
Answering the phone.
You answer your phone, people can reach you. That's true. I've heard a lot of people say that.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating when you call and nobody calls you back. I really want to talk to you. So I'm going to say this right now. If you would like a 20-minute free consultation, we call it a discovery session, email me, and I will make an appointment with you. I don't care where you are, even if you're in Alaska or Germany or Israel or Chicago. I will answer your questions for you and make suggestions and help you to get a blueprint. And it's not going to cost you $1 million, but we can put you on the road to success.
Yeah, and Susan really will call you back. You're not going to get a call from an assistant or anybody like that. And that is what is unique. You've been around for so many years, and people
21 years.
Yeah, 21 years, and doing this, helping speakers.
Well, entrepreneurs and experts,
right.
Really. To grow their business and income through speaking. And anybody could get listed with us if they have an interest and they have a small budget. Because what I wanted to say before, it's more than just taking your money and saying, okay, we're going to get you the speaking gigs. We're teaching you how to market yourself as a speaker. Jean-Noel is rewriting your copy for you so you have professional copy. We're teaching you about the media, one sheets. We're putting you into the speakers community, the membership club, where you have access to hundreds of experts on various topics. Also, you could be on this show. That's another perk. And we'd love to have you on here. Many of the speakers who are on here, or the guests, are our speakers on speakerservices.com. So once again, Susan Levin at speakerservices.com. Speakerservices.com is the website. And even just join the speakers community, the membership club. It's 60 days for free. You can download to your heart's content.
Just list a couple of the things, like, you've got MP3s on how to do practically everything, like how to create ebooks, right? How
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah, how to create e-courses coming up, how to create virtual events, how to go from the soapbox to the stage coming up.
It's an amazing library.
How to get local business speaking gigs.
Yeah, it's amazing.
People take me to the beach and to exercise with them. I don't have to go to the gym anymore. So thank you for interviewing me.
Well, thanks for just being on the show.
Yeah, and I want to, as we say good night to you, and we're getting prepared for the book beat, which will be in 30 minutes. We have some great guests on there. I want to thank Jothy Rosenburg for calling in. Quite an inspiration for me, who's been health challenged and feeling sorry for myself. I no longer feel sorry. Thank you, Jothy. And I want to thank Susie Pruden, because she's responsible for us being here. She interviewed me for an hour back in December on the show, and she looked at me, and Richard, the general manager, said, "You should have a show." Well, here we are, and we're in the month of July, going strong. And Richard said, "We're young. We're young broadcasters."
That's always good to hear.
And we love our Nez,
our engineer Nez.
Yeah, he's fabulous. And his dinner tonight was "You Are Terrific" from the Gratitude Cafe. So you want to say something
here
else?
in Venice, California,
right? You have something more to say?
No, I just stay tuned for the book beat, and that'll be in half an hour. And
great guests tonight.
Yes, thanks to Jothy Rosenburg and to Susan Levin.
I'm saying great guests on the book beat.
Oh yes, stay tuned for that. Here at LA Talk Live, where
we're more than just talk. We'll see you next week.